Left of the box. Pierre Poilievre did not win his riding of Carleton in Ontario to maintain his leadership of the Conservative Party. Well, he was still leader to a point, but without being sitting member in the House and being leader, especially as the official opposition, meant that he probably should have been kicked out of his mansion. But since they knew that he was about to run in one of the safest ridings in the country, they're like, no, you can stay in this mansion with servants on the taxpayer's dime while you're waiting to be a sore loser and go to a riding that voted over 80% conservative so that you can be parachuted into it and become a sitting MP again. We'll let it slide for a few months. And the thing is that Mark Carney was actually like, oh, you want a by-election so that you can run again? Like that. Did it instantly. Whereas if it was the reverse, the Conservatives would have drawn it out as long as possible, the longest period of time it would take before they had to call it. But you see, Mark Carney is like, no, I'm going to call it right away, because he knows I know that with Pierre Poilievre as leader of the Conservative Party, it makes Mark Carney look good in comparison. And Mark Carney is shit. So Mark Carney knows this. Mark Carney is savvy. Like, I'll give him that. He's savvy on a lot of things. He's not an idiot. But he knows that as long as Pierre Poilievre is leader of the Conservative Party, that the Liberals stand a better chance of staying in power. So they had the election. There was somebody who was running as an independent who had a good shot of making some waves. And, well, let's get into it. So here we have somebody just poking fun at it because Pierre Poilievre is like, oops, is there sound on this? Okay, good, no. Oh, right. We're not going to watch this video because it's 18 minutes long, but just a little.
Congratulations.
I was worried because often this music in the background of these.
Thank you very much.
He's so proud of his win here, and there's jokes involved with this that we'll get to, because it's like, no, I won this riding that was over 80% of conservative. Job well done, everyone. I'm so good. Gotta force that kiss in there somehow. Oh, right. We forgot our cue. We forgot our footing. No, you stand here now. Bring your face over here to put lips on cheek. Okay, good. You missed your mark.
Thank you very much to the great people of Battle River Crowfoot. If I stand before you here today, it is by the grace of God and the good generosity of so many people.
Ain't none of that.
The first of which I must start with is my incredible wife, Anna. Anna, yes, give her a round of applause.
Okay, I'm already bored listening to him. We're not listening anymore. But somebody else pointing, because Pierre Poilievre is tweeting out, back in the saddle. And this guy is just saying, back in a saddle after blowing a huge lead and falling off your own horse, then kicking someone else off their horse and using it to finish last. Yes. Before Justin Trudeau stepped down as leader of the Liberal Party, the Conservatives were guaranteed to win. Like, absolutely, fully guaranteed to win. And that turnaround between the Liberals and the Conservatives and that swing was kind of epic. And David Dole of the Rational National was quote tweeting Mark Carney. So right away, Mark Carney, quicker to tweet about, Pierre Poilievre's win than he was to mention anything about the Air Canada strike. Congratulations to Pierre Poilievre on returning to the House of Commons and gaining the honor of representing the people of Battle River Crowfoot in Parliament. Thank you as well to Darcy Spady and everyone who took part in this by-election. Working together, Canada's new government will keep building a stronger future for all Albertans and Canadians. And David Dole of the Rational National pointing out what we all know, on the heels of the Liberals' government's disastrous handling of Air Canada's strike, no one is more excited for Pierre Poilievre's return than Mark Carney. Will only be will only benefit him to have someone as unlikable as Pierre in the opposition. And yes, we all know that Pierre as leader will make Mark Carney look good. Oh, politics. And so this person pointing out, so Canada Proud, which is exactly what you would think it is. It's like, oh, look, the media is trying to spin this as a failure. He won with 80% of the votes, and this independent is actually one person. We'll get to her in a bit. And somebody pointing out, this is like losing a high school sporting event, then dropping down to elementary and winning first place and having your mom post how great you are on Facebook. Not to mention, he didn't do as well as the MP he replaced. Nope. So here we have, when you start breaking down the numbers, Keurig was the MP that Pierre Poilievre is replacing. So Poilievre had over 13,000 votes less than BRC, than Keurig, and the lowest vote total in history for the riding. Granted, this was a by-election, but if you watch Rachel Gilmore's video, she does a great job breaking it down as well, that it's not just that he received less votes, it's less percentage of the votes. So when you take it into effect that, yes, less people vote during a by-election, however, since this by-election was for Pierre Poilievre and the leadership of the party, there was more than the average by-election. But that said, he received a smaller percentage. So it was over 80%, and it was just 80% for Pierre Poilievre. It was like 82% for the last guy, but 80%. So he didn't win as good. And I'll admit, he won better than I thought he would. I thought he was going to perform a lot less better than that. But even for the independent had a hard time breaking through, she still made some gains and probably did bleed away some of his support. And we'll get to that in a bit. So Laura Babcock, so this is the person that we are talking about, is Bonnie Critchley. Let's listen to her. So this is the person that was running as an independent. She is a centrist conservative, former Army, well, she's an Army veteran, queer, quite reasonable takes on most things. I actually agreed with her with a lot of things. The diversion? Not a diversion as in distraction. You know what I'm trying to say. Is it the same word? Anyway, she's all about like the oil and tar sands and guns. I'm not. Well, let's just listen to what she had to say about the election.
I took 10% of the vote. I'm a nobody who stood up. And suddenly, nobodies everywhere are going to stand up. Because what we just did...
Divert. That's the word I was looking for.
What my team just did was showed the country and put the politicians on alert. They work for us, not the other way around. And if I can pull this off in 3 months... what can somebody with some actual backing and some actual experience in the arena do?
And that is a very, like, that's the thing. She did do extraordinarily well. An independent getting 10% of the vote in any riding is actually really good, considering what she was up against. You know, she was up against in a riding that is overwhelmingly conservative. But still being able to get 10% of that as an independent is really good. So here we can see the breakdown more thoroughly. So conservative, so got 80% of the vote, but she got just that 10%. And if you might notice, all the other independents, yes, that was the longest ballot initiative. Yes, this was literally on their ballot. All of this was on their ballot. So bad that people weren't even voting for themselves. Yeah. All of these people were on the ballot. So for you pond jumpers who might not know, there is a group here called the Longest Ballot Initiative, and they do this type of thing. They'll pick a riding every now and then to go and just put 100 to 200 people on the ballot to protest the first past the post system. But even if you add up all the people who voted for themselves or got their spouse to vote for them, got their spouse and their mom to vote for them, spouse, mom, father, spouse, mom, father, grandfather, both grandparents, oh, and their one adult child, all of them, they still wouldn't have, she still wouldn't have made any real significant gains in it. But the fact that she beat the other parties, the Liberal Party, the New Democrat Party, that goes a lot to who she is as a candidate. Let's see if this has passed, just to see what the last one was. Yeah, so the last election that just happened for the federal government in total, Damian Couric won with 82, almost 83% of the votes. So Pierre Poilievre lost on that vote share. And so a little bit from CBC News, Poilievre's by-election win sets the table for his return to Parliament. And we're going to scooch down to top priorities here. When Parliament resumes on September 15th, Poilievre will square off with Prime Minister Mark Carney in the House of Commons for the first time. See, this is going to be really interesting because a lot of the things that Mark Carney did is what Poilievre wanted to do. Let's get rid of the carbon tax. Done. Let's get rid of the capital gains tax. Done. Cancel the digital service tax. Done. Let's cut public service spending. Done. Let's increase funding to military. Oh, damn it, you've already done that. So it's going to be interesting to see, Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre, I want this to happen. And Carney is like, yeah, I'm already on it, dude. So the Conservative Party and the country have moved past the election campaign. We're now in a new government. He's going to have to show that he's really good at holding their feet to the fire, said Amanda Galbraith, a Conservative strategist and partner at Oyster Group. Poilievre has already signaled some of what he plans to focus on. At a news conference on August 7th, he said he will introduce a bill in the House of Commons called the Canadian Sovereignty Act to speed up the development of major projects. And you see, I'm laughing because Bill C-5 has already been passed and does exactly that. So again, he's like, I'm going to push through bills. Oh shit, Carney's already done it. Because Bill C-5 speeds up the development of major projects by, not caring about the environment for one thing, by just being able to be like, oh, this is the last habitat for this species, damn it, and it's in the way of this highway. Oh well. He also says Conservatives are calling on Carney to begin construction of at least 2 pipeline projects. Again, this is just funny because do you really think you need to call on Carney to do this? He's already on it. I guarantee 2? No, expect 5. You're underestimating what Carney's going to do. You're looking at 5, I would say, that Carney. Yeah, no, you're asking him to do something he's already going to do. A new natural gas liquefaction project and a road to the Ring of Fire in Ontario by March 14th. Again, that is a Doug Ford project that he's working in tandem with Mark Carney. It's already happening. You're good. You're good. With Poilievre once again leading the party in Parliament, Andrew Scheer will return to his opposition House leader duties. There will be changes to the party's front bench too. The Conservative leader pledged in the spring to shuffle his shadow cabinet, a group of 74 MPs appointed to critic or leadership roles in the House of Commons this fall. We've seen which ministers are performing and which ministers are not, where the weaknesses lie in that government, so they'll realign. And this is coming from the Conservative strategist here. Which ministers are performing? What about the minister? What about the person? The member of Parliament that didn't win his seat. Would you call that performing? Was Pierre Poilievre performing when he lost his own riding? Would you say that was Maybe that's a weakness. You know, him losing his own riding. Would you say that that's a weakness? Huh? Huh? Poilievre's former campaign manager, Jenny Brine, said in recent podcast interview that the fall house sitting is when the real next chapter starts for the party. The Conservatives will focus on issues like immigration and crime. Carney's on it. He's on it, said Brine, who noted in the interview that she's still involved as an advisor to Poilievre and takes calls on a daily basis. The cost of living will likely remain top priority for the opposition, particularly as trade and U.S. tariffs command the government's attention. On my Sunday live stream, I will probably touch on the tariff thing because there's breaking news today. I hate covering anything to do with the tariffs because it changes every goddamn day. It's hard to give you accurate information when literally one time, by the time I ended my stream at 10 o'clock at night, news broke that what I had just reported on had flipped. It's so frustrating. Leadership review to start 2026. So Ginny Roth, a partner at Crestview Strategy and conservative commentator, said Poilievre has been successful as opposition leader in pointing out the places where Canadians are struggling and where the government is failing. I'm sure any one of them could do that. It's not specific to Poilievre. The Conservative Party will hold a national convention in Calgary in late January. The party's constitution stipulates that any leader who has just lost an election will face a vote on their future. Running a by-election campaign all summer has meant Poilievre has not been whatever. I want to get to where is it? So the Tory caucus has been firm in its support for Poilievre, and it is widely expected that he will win the leadership review, not least because no one so far has publicly challenged his leadership. There's a lot to be excited about, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm just, really, after losing his own seat, like, they point to the fact that the Conservatives gained seats as a win. It wasn't Poilievre that did it. It was the conservative brand and the hatred for the Liberal Party that increased the seats. There was nothing Pierre did that accomplished that. It would have happened regardless of who was in that position. But you still want him in as leader after losing? Because here, Raghu points this out. Hello, Conservatives. Try to pick the anomaly. You've got to wonder what Prime Minister Harper and Mr. Scheer and Mr. O'Toole are thinking. So, in 2015, Stephen Harper won his seat, lost the popular vote, lost the election, resigned as leader. Andrew Scheer, who was the interim official opposition person in the House, won his seat, won the popular vote, but lost the election, resigned as leader. Aaron O'Toole in 2021 won his seat, won the popular vote, lost the election, resigned as leader. But in 2025, Pierre Poilievre lost his seat, lost the popular vote, lost the election, remained as leader. Huh. Funny how it works out like that. And so this is where we get into like, oh, right, I forgot how bad this is going to be. Because at first I was fine. I was absolutely fine with Pierre Poilievre remaining as leader. Because like I said, as long as he's leader, it's less likely the Conservatives will do well. And I don't want the Conservatives to do well. I don't want the Liberals to do well either, but the NDP is doing shit right now. So least worst option. We'll go with that. Even though at this point, I don't even know if the Liberals are the least worst option. Because what Carney is doing is more than what any Conservative government has done before. At least he's not trying to take away our rights as queer folks. That's about it. That's about it. But then Pierre, soon as he won, he started tweeting and tweeting and tweeting. And I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know if I can handle all this culture war bullshit he's going to use as a diversion, and I do mean diversion that time, from the real issues. And I'm just like, this is it. It is so taxing. Considering all the taxes that have been cut, this is so taxing to deal with. Having to confront this, his transphobia, his hatred for poor people, his hatred for criminals, like all of this over and over again, the way that he's stoking up hatred in this country and the way it plays out in real life. And I just, for a brief moment when he wasn't leader because he hadn't won a seat, we kind of had a breath of fresh air where he wasn't constantly tweeting about it. But he wasted no time getting back to it as soon as he became the leader again, the official leader. And I'm just like, I am, wow. This is a lot. It's a lot. So, here he is, quote tweeting Globe investor, half of young Canadians spending more than 50% of earnings on rent. Poilievre, rent takes up more than half of the paychecks of young Canadians and a third of all renters' paychecks. Canadians across the board pay more in taxes than housing, groceries, and clothing combined. Inflation, taxes, red tape, bureaucracy created this affordability crisis, and Prime Minister Carney is doubling down on making it worse. Let our builders build and leave more dollars out for workers earn in their pockets. Okay, again, Carney has already done all of this. Poilievre's, if he were to do anything different, it would make it worse. But Carney is all about, let's build houses for the investors to gobble up and still not make housing more affordable. He has cut taxes. He's cut plenty of taxes so far. He's passed the bill C5 to help with the builders build thing. Like, it's all the same. It's the same fucking party. Like, that's the thing. It's the same fucking party at this point. But Pierre needs to whine about something. But it's just, okay, then what are you going to do about it, Pierre? Like, actually state what policies you would implement that would actually make it easier for people as opposed to just vague reasons. And Bev just pointing out, pretty rich, you're talking about the price of rent in Canada while you and your family are living rent-free on the back of Canadian taxpayer dollars and spending millions on a by-election because you lost your seat. Sit down, Pierre. You're the biggest scab in Canada. And here are the serfs quote tweeting this. I covered this. Was it my last live stream or was it? It might have been Wednesday on this space where I was covering this. I forget, but I know I've touched on it. But again, having political leaders chime in with transphobic takes, again, it's very tiring as somebody who's non-binary, who's in the queer community, who, lots of trans folks in my life that I love, and having to deal with this hatred being spewed from the leaders, to have him use it as to stoke his base up, to get his base riled up on the safety of the most vulnerable people in this country, to make us feel less safe here. It is so tiring because we are safer here than we are in, let's say, the United States, than we are in the UK. We are not safe. We're just safer relative to. And this is just, again, it is such a headache trying to deal with this and trying to get, especially as progressives, our voices out there to counter this narrative with actual facts. Because the National Post, anything you read from them is just pure right-wing trash. It is absolutely right-wing conspiracy talking points trash. BC Nursing College went to great lengths to enforce ideology that rejects scientific blah, blah, blah. Fining nurse Amy Han $93,000 is a grotesque attack on free speech. We don't have free speech in this fucking country, okay? We have freedom of expression. And then Pierre Poilievre tweeting out, supporting this transphobic nurse. A nurse with a spotless track record gets fined and suspended for pointing out there are two genders and for praising world-renowned author and women's rights advocate J.K. Rowling. Yes, renowned author and women's rights advocate, that J.K. Rowling. Yes, this woman here, spent money to put up a billboard that said, "I heart J.K. Rowling." This is authoritarian censorship. We must restore free speech and free thinking in a free country, says the party that likes to ban books. The serfs will point out here again, she didn't get fined for her comments. She disputed the decision, lost, and had to pay the legal fees. She could have just taken 1 month suspension. Lying like this to attack the LGBTQ plus people and vulnerable community members should be disqualifying as a politician. It should be, but it's not. It makes him very popular with his base. And yes, she's not being fined. She's having to cover the court fees after she challenged this, after going on social media and spewing transphobic bullshit under the title of her being a nurse, which you can't do in this country. Jordan Peterson went through the same thing when he was spewing his transphobic bullshit while also claiming to be a psychiatrist. Like it's done in the same things. Like you're representing your industry in that point, and they kind of look down on that because it might make trans folks more reluctant to go to nurses or psychiatrists or to use a medical system if they feel like this is acceptable by the nurses or the psychiatry and all that sort of stuff. She wasn't fined. She had to cover the court fees that she ensued by fighting as opposed to just taking a suspension. That's it. That is it. I believe Rachel Gilmore has done a very good detailed video on this. The serfs have also covered it. I've covered it. It's just, it is, cultural bullshit that they're putting out there that, again, all it does is hurt and ostracize the queer community. And Faye Johnstone, who is a trans woman, advocate stuff, she's also saying, I think it's a dangerous precedent for a federal leader to politicize the workings of a regulated profession, which is what is happening. It's not that Amy Hand was fined or not fined, but having to be suspended because she simply said these words. It's, well, she did it under the banner of being a nurse. If she was just a private citizen spewing all this transphobic bullshit on Twitter, nothing would have happened. But since she was doing it under the banner of being a nurse, that profession, that is where the conflict lied. Regulatory bodies are integral to trust. Being part of a regulated profession comes with responsibilities. Responsibilities Amy Hand was unable to uphold. And that was the same, again, with Jordan Peterson. So here's the next. Crime is out of control here in Canada. Mark Carney, do your job. After 10 years of Liberals, crime is up. Extortion is out of control. Gangs rule the streets. Wait a sec, are you talking about the government? Yeah, okay, Doug Ford, conservatives, liberals, extortion. Okay, yeah, no, there's definitely collusion and corruption going on. Gangs rule. Oh, you're talking about the police, right? Enough. Time to lock up and kick out organized crime and restore safety. Oh, you want to kick out organized crime, do you? Okay, let's just revamp our electoral system then. Get rid of all the politicians. How about that? How about that? Let's just get rid of all of them. Organized crime problem solved. But again, just stoking up fear because as this person points out, gangs rule the streets in Canada? Really? Perhaps Mr. Poilievre should travel the world to see what that actually looks like. Again, we're not completely safe here in Canada, but relative to a lot of other countries, we're safe. People don't live in fear of walking down the streets in Canada, unless you're Indigenous and in some urban areas with a lot of white settlers for very colonial racist reasons. But somebody like me, there is no street in daylight I would feel unsafe walking down. None. That I can think of in Canada. Okay, there are a few. But we're talking like they're up in Churchill and areas that are extremely far north, and that's because of polar bears. That's it. I'd be worried about the polar bears. I'm not worried about gangs roaming the streets. I'm worried about polar bears roaming the streets up there in those northern communities, which is why they don't lock their doors. Which means that if you're walking down the street and you encounter a roaming polar bear, you can run into the closest building. So funny how that is the thing that they fear. They don't lock their doors because they're afraid of roaming gangs. They keep their doors unlocked because of roaming polar bears. But yeah, I lived in Toronto for a bit. There's nothing. Gang activity is an issue, but that's a systemic societal issue that needs to be addressed with like a fundamental overhaul, and more socialist policies will help with that a lot. And get rid of the wealth income inequality gap and cost of living and all that sort of stuff, and deal with the underlying issues. But there is some problems with gangs in Toronto and Vancouver and things of that sort. Sure. Is it to the extent of other places? Nowhere near as close. It's just the way it is. It's just Poilievre immediately going to crimes, integration, trans folks, scare, tactic. And another place that they love to stoke fear is here. Pierre Poilievre saying the addiction crisis has killed more Canadians than the Second World War. Mark Carney's Liberal government has supported policies that flooded our streets with poisons that is killing our people. Bring treatment and recovery to give our people healing, hope, and a drug-free life. All the policies the Conservatives have for that is shit, and the NDP has taken up on some of them. Like in BC, where the NDP party, the so-called socialist one, has made it so that they can force people, take them off the streets and force them into treatment in prisons. And then when they get back out, then they're more likely to take drugs again. And since their tolerance has subsided a bit, more likely to overdose. But as Guy Felicia points out, who is somebody who is a strong advocate for people dealing with addictions, as he used to deal with an addiction and has overcome it and turned his life around, is now a very strong advocate for that sort of thing. Just saying, wow, Pierre Poilievre is back for 5 minutes and he's already punching down on vulnerable people and spreading misinformation. Pierre, we don't have an addiction crisis, full stop. Evidence show that incidences of new substance use disorder continue to decline. So there's fewer people relying on substances, becoming addicted. Fewer people. The crisis is poison, illicit drugs that kill without warning. So it's not the quantity, it's the quality that is killing people. People can have addictions, alcohol, gambling, sex, that don't frequently and randomly kill them. But Pierre and other conservatives can't admit the cause of the drug crisis is the contaminated shit mix sold by organized crime, because then they'd have to promise to fix it. Quite often, the conservatives would just rather see them dead. What would their options be? Enforcement. Been doing it for 50 years. It's made illicit drug supply worse. Fix the drugs. To do it, you have to legalize them. Think alcohol, nicotine, and cannabis. And sure, they can't do that. How would they look down in judgment on people who use illegal substances if they were legal? Hey, Pierre, and hope yoga isn't going to cut it for you, are people who are addicted to deadly combos of fentanyls and benzos. Wouldn't it be a much better promise to prevent those drugs from ever being produced in the first place? Yeah, safe supplies, supervised consumption side, all that sort of stuff. And here's a poll. If you watch my channel, you know I hate polls. Half of Canadians would be ashamed to call Pierre Poilievre Prime Minister. No shit! Half of Canadians are not conservative. You had to do a fucking poll for this? You decided to post an entire news article talking about polls. You know I fucking hate polls on this channel. There was one time I used to cover polls and mention polls, but they are stupid. You don't need to spend money and have a whole organization go over to tell you this. Of course. Of course. Anyone who isn't conservative, and even some conservatives, would be ashamed to call Pierre Poilievre prime minister. How is this a thing? Just pay me already. God damn it. Why are you doing these polls? Just pay me. Ugh.